Alrighty, welcome everyone. My name is Can. I'm with Lyngso, and we've got Kathleen and Lisa Putnam today from the Master Gardeners. So welcome back, both of you, and we've got another exciting class of cover crops. So let's get right into it. This class is being recorded, so feel free to watch it later on under Lyngso's community resources page. Also, all your questions, send them in via chat where it says ask questions here, and we'll address them towards the end of the talk. So without further ado, welcome Kathleen and Lisa.
Thank you, Can.
Thank you, Can. Okay. There we go. All right, this class is about cover cropping. Lisa and I presenting. So we're going to cover what is a cover crop, why cover crop, how to cover crop, and the different plants and the benefits of them. This is the Dust Bowl, and they were not cover cropping, and they destroyed their soil when the winds came and they had bare soil. So what is a cover crop? A cover crop is a temporary unharvested crop grown to enrich and protect the soil. What I love about this slide is it's so busy. And I think it gives a sense, I hope it gives a sense of how much is happening in your soil. There's a whole lot going on down there if you have roots in the ground. This is Lisa's definition of a cover crop. Is a crop that is planted for your soil, not you. I love that one. Oh, I froze. Hold on. Uh-oh. Sorry, guys. I'm frozen.
I wonder if Can should put up hers or in a PDF.
Let's see.
Maybe try hitting escape, Kathleen, and
I didn't. It's just beeping at me. Sorry, guys. You know what? I'm just going to turn it on and off really.
In the meantime, I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, me too. Let's see. Stop share.
I would just bring up the PDF, Kathleen, otherwise it might keep happening.
Well, let me try it one more time. The PDF is not as good.
All right.
Okay, should I try to share again? Can you guys see my screen?
not yet. We see you.
Okay.
Now we see your screen.
Okay. Now let me hit play. And it's working. Okay. This is the most, well, it's a really important slide. Why cover crop? A cover crop is a mix of plants used primarily to slow erosion, improve soil health, mitigate compaction, enhance water availability, smother weeds, help control pests and diseases, increase biodiversity, increase yields, and a host of other benefits. That is a direct quote from SARE.org, who's done a ton of research on cover crops, as well as grow nutrient-dense food. So it sounds like magic, but it isn't. It's all about having roots in the ground. Okay. It stopped again.
Even though the PDF is not as good quality, Kathleen, I just think you're.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and can you see my screen?
No.
I don't.
Okay, let's escape. Can you guys see just this?
We see you.
You don't see my screen at all?
No.
Okay. Try it one more time.
And then Can, do you have the presentation? Because maybe you put it up and Kathleen just says next slide.
Yeah.
Give me just a moment.
I'm so sorry. I know this is a
Very participant. It's the recording part that's, there we go. Okay. So it increases the nutrient availability because you have deep-rooted cover crops that bring nutrients up from the subsoil and bring them to the crops you're growing, thereby making them available. And this slide just shows how much more is happening in your soil and how much more carbon is being put into your soil when you cover crop. And it'll increase yield. I love this slide. I just got this photo yesterday from Master Gardener Drew, and he was kind enough to let me use this photo. But if you see right in here, those broccoli and this broccoli were planted at the same time, and these broccoli have a cover crop with them, and look at how much better they're growing than this little guy all by himself.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. Okay, so let me stop that. Okay, it's,
Hey, Can,
yeah, I'm stuck
Working on
again.
putting up the slide, please.
Yeah,
can you put up the presentation and Kathleen just tells you next slide? There's
Yes.
something with
Yeah,
Keynote.
something's going on. Give me just a minute to set it up. I got to set
Okay.
it up on my computer, but just have the
Yeah.
screen up for a second.
Kathleen, in the meantime, maybe you and I just talk to each other and
okay.
because first off, we're very sorry, but there's something about Keynote and recording, and they just don't like each other, and this has happened. Um, it's happened to us once before. But Kathleen, in your previous slide, when you were talking about all the benefits of cover cropping, I think the main point I would like to make is you're keeping your soil covered. You can see what Drew did here with the mulch. So it's covered. The cover crop is some people call it, as Kathleen put in her last slide, green manure or a living mulch. And it's just keeping that soil covered so the sun and the wind don't beat down on it. And then it's keeping those living roots in the ground. When those living roots are in the ground year round, we're here in California, 365 days a year, you have living roots in the ground. And what's happening is the photosynthesis is putting the plant is converting those into carbohydrates, storing those in the soil, in the roots. The roots are using exudates to feed all the microbial life in your soil. And all the microbial life in your soil is what's feeding your plant. And that's why you want to have a diversity of different plants. And Kathleen will get into this, but we'll just chit chat till we get the presentation up. But a diversity of 8 different families, always covering your soil, always living roots in the ground. And that's what's going to cause the nutrient cycle, which is the nitrogen cycle and the carbon cycle. And that's why cover cropping is so good, is because it's like anything in life, the more diversity, the better. Oh, great. Is this Can with hers up?
No, this is me.
Oh, this is you
Oh,
again.
sorry, I can't share if that's being shared, so I've got it up
Okay.
here.
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me share this. It is a PDF, unfortunately, but let's see.
I think it's just going to have to do because,
Yeah.
Is that working okay?
yep.
Yep. Okay, so next slide.
Just a second here. Sorry, folks. Okay.
And
Okay.
probably keep going to the 9th slide, Can.
Okay. Yeah, I took some out and I added some. So this is kind of what Lisa was talking about. The way you get carbon into your soil is through the plant photosynthesizing and the exudates going into the soil, and it becomes stable carbon. They used to call it soil humus. They don't anymore. Now they're calling it stable carbon because that carbon actually binds with minerals. So it's a different process than they thought. But essentially, it is pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, CO2, and putting it into the soil. Okay. It also increases nutrient availability. We did this one. Next. And next. And all that carbon that goes into the soil feeds the soil and all the life in your soil. And the amount of life in your soil is beyond belief.
Yeah.
It's like 1 teaspoon of soil has 1 billion living creatures in it.
Yeah.
Bacteria and fungi.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Kathleen.
No, you were going to say something.
Well, that's in the upper right-hand picture. That is hyphal fungi. I mean, and it looks like roots, but that's off of a root. And then that's the little fungi, and there's endo and ecto. So, but there's fungi that actually go into the root, and that is what is feeding that plant. And that's why we just need to get out of the way and let the plants do what the plants do.
Yeah, and it also brings water to the plant. If the plant is water stressed, it'll tell the fungi, hey, I need H2O, and the fungi will go get some.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Okay, next. And it's a good, if you have a lot of weeds, if you plant a cover crop, it will outcompete your weeds. And the right-hand side is a client of mine, raised beds, and I cover crop like crazy in there. And this is actually what convinced Lisa that cover crops are good, because her soil was amazing.
So it forms beautiful aggregates. What you're after in soil is aggregates, because that's what's holding the water and the air, and the microbes, the glue that the exudates and the microbes poop out, make aggregates, and that's what allows the air and the water to flow into your soil.
And aggregates are like tiny little clumps of soil underground. So it's the structure to your soil.
Structure.
Okay. It also increases water infiltration. And what I really love about this slide is if you look in the bottom right, they're watering bare soil. So that water, if it goes into the water table, next slide, it's going to be full of all kinds of bad things, pesticides and fertilizers, and that's going to go into our water table. And this is a slide from UC Davis. They sampled the water table up and down California, and most of our water table is contaminated because the water goes through dead soil. If that soil was alive, it would filter out the containment, whatever. You know what I mean? The bad things, because it's full of carbon. It's kind of like your Brita water filter full of charcoal. It's the same kind of thing, except it's alive. And fungi are amazing for what they can eat and convert into something not bad. Okay. And to provide habitat for prey, nectar, and pollen for beneficial insects. And unfortunately, my next slide, I can't show you, but it was a broccoli plant covered in aphids. And I leave that broccoli plant covered in aphids. It's at the end of its life cycle, because then all the predators come in and eat those aphids. And then they go over and eat the aphids on my fruit trees and on my roses. And you're not going to have the predators if you don't give them some food. And plants, the vegetable plants that you're growing that are at the end of their life are perfect food for the predators because they always get attacked by aphids. It's just the cycle. So if you have plants, leave the aphids because the predators aren't going to come in without food. Okay. And I like this slide too, because it just shows the different root structures of different plants. And I have another slide that shows this as well. But the point of this one is if you have hardpan, even in raised beds, you can get a hardpan because all the fines, as you water, all the fines, drop down with the water because they're tiny little particles and you'll get a layer at the base. But if you cover crop, the roots will break that up. Okay. And to break a disease cycle, UC Santa Cruz actually is studying strawberries and what plants they can plant to break the soil diseases rather than fumigate the soil, which is what they do now. They tarp it and they fumigate it, they kill everything in it, and then they plant strawberries. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. I didn't know if this would be in there. And so this was UC Davis did research on verticillium wilt, which is what tomatoes get. If you plant a tomato in the same place, because it's the best place in your garden for sun, eventually you're going to get verticillium. But if you plant broccoli back to back, so you take your tomatoes out, leave the roots in unless they're diseased, plant broccoli. After you harvest that broccoli, plant another crop of broccoli, and then plant your tomatoes again. The broccoli actually, its exudates kill the verticillium bacteria. I think it's a bacteria. Okay, and cover crops stops erosion. And if you think about it, when you have plants, water does not run through your property like it does if you don't. So if you have roots in the ground from a cover crop or anything really, you will help with erosion. Okay. So, this is a big one. Why cover crop? And this study is from 2003. I would bet the decline in these minerals is worse now. And this is due to plant breeding. They're not breeding it for nutrient value, but mostly it's due to the health of the soil. And so, I actually showed this to my doctor and she was like, oh my God, these are the deficiencies that are causing mental illness.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So,
and how is cover cropping directly helping increase in these minerals?
Well, the biggest reason these minerals are deficient is we've added fertilizer to our soil and the plants have quit sending out exudates to feed the soil life because they're being fertilized.
Mm-hmm.
So if we quit doing that, and the way to quit doing that is to cover crop, because then you have the nutrients and the minerals in your soil through cover cropping. Those plants pull it up from deep down, and so it's at the surface or in your topsoil, and your crop can then access them and you're good to go.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and 95% of life on land lives in the soil. I just, that blows my mind every time I read it.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. And I mean, until pretty recently, we just thought soil was dead.
Yeah.
We had no idea. So, when you see your soil, kiss it.
Or at least roll around in it.
Yeah. And I know Lisa and I have talked about root exudate. So this is just a slide to kind of explain. It's a group of substances in the rhizosphere, which is tiny. It's just right around the root, just like millimeters. But that is where the plant excretes liquid carbon. And they excrete 30 to 60 or even more % of the energy they have to feed the soil. So, I mean, if you think about that, it's ancient relationship plants have had with the soil, and we're totally screwing it up by fertilizing.
Yeah.
We're cutting off that I mean, if the plants are fertilized, they're not going to give off exudates. And giving off exudates also, it makes the plant stronger. It's like exercising for a human. It makes the plant stronger, and then the soil life brings that plant stuff that it needs because the plant is telling it that it needs that. And it's like micronutrients and what's all this stuff, Lisa?
All the different
No,
micronutrients.
all the benefits of a plant grown in healthy soil.
Yeah, no, it helps increase the antioxidants in the plant, and then in return increases your antioxidants, increases all your phytonutrients, both what it's doing in the plant, then it's also doing in your body. But I want to talk about fertilization for a second. I think your last slide, but this slide is fine.
Yeah.
So when Kathleen's talking about don't fertilize, I mean, really here we're talking about don't use synthetic fertilizer, because basically what you're giving your plant is pure nitrogen. And what happens when you're giving your plant so much nitrogen, as Kathleen mentioned, it's going to stop the exudates. And the bacteria, all the microorganisms in the soil need a balance of 8 to 1 carbon to nitrogen. So you're pouring on a whole bunch of nitrogen. It's going to go and scavenge for carbon, and it's going to digest that carbon. When it digests the carbon, then what happens is you get compaction in your soil because, well, for one thing, it's all out of balance because you've just poured a whole bunch of nitrogen on it. And then the microbes are having to find eight molecules of carbon to the 1 nitrogen, and they're going to totally deplete your soil of all carbon, i.e., organic matter. And when you don't have any organic matter left in your soil, you have sand, silt, and clay. You no longer have soil structure. And when you don't have soil structure, your soil is going to be just like cement, and it's going to be like walking on cement. And I ended up talking, to Terry yesterday about this, and the biggest problem they have, what people come in and ask at Lyngso's is, my soil's like cement. What do I do? And the answer is you plant plants. You have to start getting those cycles going again. You have to start getting the nitrogen and the carbon and the nutrient cycling again before you're going to get a balance in your soil again. And once you get a balance in your soil again and you get organic matter in your soil again, your soil will become fluffy. Your soil will become beautiful. But so when we're saying don't add fertilizer, we're really talking about don't add synthetic fertilizer. But the same thing happens if you add too much organic. When you use organic fertilizer, you're feeding the microbes in the soil instead of feeding your plant, but you can still get too much nitrogen even from organic fertilizer. And the exact same thing's going to happen. The chemistry is the chemistry, whether it's synthetic or it's organic. The exact same thing is going to happen if you put too much organic fertilizer. You're going to end up, the plant is going to go and scavenge for carbon, digest all your carbon. You're not going to have your organic matter. It's going to turn into cement. So you can avoid all of that problem just by having living roots in your soil year round, i.e. cover crop and cash crops. You can polycrop, but that's what's going to keep your nutrient cycle going and your soil beautiful and healthy. And when your soil is beautiful and healthy, it's going to make your plant healthy. And when you eat that plant, if it's a vegetable or a fruit, that's going to make you healthy. Sorry, Kathleen, if I went way too long into it, but what's going to happen to everybody in this audience at some point in their life is this is going to drop. At some point, this is all going to make sense and it's all going to click and you're going to go, oh, I didn't get it before, but now I get it. And it might not be today, it might not be in this cover crop class, and maybe for some of you it's already happened, but we can, it's like, where you were when, Kennedy was shot or something like that. It's going to hit you and you're going to know, oh, I now understand the biology. I now get it. And because I was talking to a friend of mine, and it's like a light switch going on, and you finally figure out, oh, that's what gardening's all about. And so anyway, I hope you guys all have that moment. Like I said, it might not be today, but I guarantee you, if you haven't had it already, there's going to be a moment in your life where you're going to go like, oh, now it makes sense. Now I know what those crazy Putnam sisters were talking about.
It's funny. I was out in the garden this morning and I was thinking, everybody complains about having clay soil.
Yeah, yeah.
Almost nobody has clay soil. What they have is dead soil.
Yeah, compact.
It's difficult to work because it's not alive. And that's not clay soil, that's dead soil.
Dead soil, right. Or compacted soil is another term for it. But yeah.
Yeah, compacted soil is not clay.
Yeah. Okay, that's just my 2 cents. You can go on.
Okay, so Lisa just talked about this. It's the microbial life that creates aggregation and soil structure, stability, aeration. So everything that a cover crop does, it does in harmony with the plant feeding the microbes in the soil, and they do all the heavy lifting. And I mean, the plant does some heavy lifting too, because it's giving a majority of its energy to the soil, but it's the microbes that are the most important. And the way to feed them is to grow plants.
Grow plants. Yeah, who's not doing heavy lifting in this is the human being.
Yeah, they're not even in the picture.
We don't have, this has all been figured out for us, luckily, millions of years ago. So all we really need to do is get out of the way and just make sure we have living roots in the soil year round.
Yeah. Okay.
Oops.
Okay, so here is how you improve your soil. And this is Gabe Brown's principle. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's a farmer in North Dakota under really harsh conditions, and he's turned his soil into something amazing. So minimize soil disturbance, which means no till. Energize with diversity, and I'll get into that. Keep the soil covered with either mulch or plants, and maximize living roots. Okay, we'll cover those things.
All right.
Okay, and here I just put this in because this is like an old myth, like pebbles in the bottom of a pot. Everybody thinks if you plant cover crops, they're going to use more water than if you don't, where actually the opposite is true. Cover crops increase the water holding capacity of your soil. It also keeps the temperature cooler, so you don't have the evaporation. It collects the dew on the soil. And through transpiration, there's more moisture just in the whole region. And this is a study, I don't remember who did this, it's in my notes, of bare soil versus cover crops, and cover crops help with water. They don't use more water. Okay.
Water retention.
So how to cover crop? Diversity is not indispensable. So every plant has its own unique stuff. I'm not going to list them all because I don't think it's necessary. But the root exudates of every plant continue very continuously over time, depending on the plant's needs. And the greater diversity of plants, the greater diversity of microbes, and the more robust the soil ecosystem. Okay, next slide. So think of your soil as an external gut, and you would want to feed it a whole nice diversity of food, which is plants. And just like you want to eat, you don't want to eat, even though broccoli is good for you, you don't want to eat just broccoli. That would not be good for you. So just like the humans need a diverse diet, so does your soil. And you do that through planting a variety of cover crops. Okay. So when can you cover crop? Today. That's always my answer. It's like some proverb that when should you plant a tree? And the answer is 10 years ago. And the second answer is today. So I literally, this morning, I went out and cover cropped. And it's super easy. I just have half a pound of seeds and I went out and I threw them around where I want stuff to grow. So, they say August to October, but now is fine, especially when the rains are coming. And for now, best choice, winter annuals, winter rye, crimson clover, oats, or radishes. I cover cropped with California natives and daikon radishes. And when I say California natives, it's probably 10 families in the plants I got. You can, and then when this cover crop is done, you chop and drop it, which we'll get into. And then in spring, cover crop again. And in summer, cover crop again. And obviously fall, cover crop again. So just always have plants in the ground. I'm constantly cover cropping. Okay. Oh, I love this slide. I think it's so beautiful. This just shows how deep, and these are almost all legumes, how deep the roots go down. And you can see they were grown in a tube because they're all fairly narrow. If these were grown in the ground, they'd be spread out and down. But, if you look at the above part and the below part, I mean, it's wild how massive the root systems are.
Yeah. I want to just say something since a lot of these are legumes, not the brassica at the end, and the grasses. Yeah, some grasses. But there's a misconception out there, and we hear it all the time, that cover cropping is fava beans or cover cropping is bell beans. But what's going to happen if you only cover crop with legumes is exactly what's going to happen if you add too much nitrogen to your soil. You're going to end up with cement because, like we mentioned earlier, the microbes are going to go find carbon and they're going to consume all of your organic matter and you're going to end up with concrete. So why Kathleen is emphasizing 8 different plant families is so that won't happen. So that's why she keeps talking about diversity. But I know so many people who just cover crop with fava beans and they'll say, oh, well, because I like fava beans. But that's not helping your soil. When you monocrop like that, that's not helping your soil. That's actually, well, it's just like your last slide. That's actually hurting your soil because you're just giving it the same diet over and over and over again, and you're not diversifying it. So anyway, just to put that out there because a lot of people think they're cover cropping and there's plenty of people who are soil scientists who have PhDs in soil scientists who don't put any legumes in their cover crop. As a matter of fact, they purposefully don't put legumes in their cover crop. So you kind of need to dispel yourself of that notion. Okay.
So this is a diverse cover crop, and look at the roots. That is a beautiful, healthy soil.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So how to cover crop? A cover crop mix, they also call it a cocktail, should have at least 8 different plant families. 60% flowers or broadleaf, 40% grasses, and 1 legume at the most.
Sorry.
More variety is definitely better. And that is a pretty nice looking cover crop. Okay. So the way I cover crop, and I mean, if you're a farmer, you're not going to do it this way because birds will eat your seeds, but I just throw seeds out. On the left is a raised bed that I manage, and I cover cropped between herb kale, broccoli, and cauliflower. And as that grew, I just chopped them down and I left what I chopped on the soil as a mulch. And it worked great. And we had probably the best success we've had in that raised bed when we cover cropped it. My ideal situation, she has 3 raised bed, would be to take one of them out of production and just really cover crop it. But that's not going to happen. So you can intercrop or interseed, which Lisa does a lot. I do as well in my own vegetable garden. Or you can just take one section and cover crop it heavily and have it out of production, and you're good to go. But I just throw seeds out. I know farmers have drills. Is that what they call them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That they have behind their tractor, and it's just like a little blade, and then a seed drops behind the blade like that. It's much more efficient as far as every seed gets good soil contact and all of that. But most of us don't have tractors or could fit a tractor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything you want to say about this, Lisa?
No, that looks good.
Okay, so this is just, we're going to go through these fast. This is a cover crop I did in my backyard a couple years ago. Next. And I pulled out my irrigation lines, which I have broken them on occasion. So I learned that. Okay. And then with my electric hedge trimmer, I chop them down. Okay.
So you chop and drop.
I chop and drop, and then I mow.
Mm.
I know you're not supposed to walk on your soil, but I do it like twice a year, and I'm doing it to cover crop. So I mow it down, and it's mowed. The reason I mow it is now it's down low enough. I can throw seeds in there and they'll get soil contact, and my next cover crop can grow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how to terminate your cover crop? This is kind of a big deal. If it's a broadleaf plant, you just chop it and drop it, which all that means is you take your hedge shears and you chop, 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 chop in little pieces, probably, 4 inches or so, and you just let it drop to the ground. And then you have free mulch and everybody's happy, and the microbes will actually come up and eat that and bring it down into your soil. If it is a grass, everybody, well, not everybody else. Grass is, if you chop them, they grow again. So what you want to do is wait until you have the beginning of a seed, but not a seed. Because if you wait until a seed is formed, when you chop and drop it, you're going to have a whole bunch of grasses growing. So wait until you see that seed head and then chop and drop it. And it mostly won't grow back. Okay. Here's another way to terminate your cover crop. I just thought that was fun, so I put it in. Okay, so I mowed my bed, I cover cropped it, and then I put a mulch on top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Did you cover that up then, Kathleen? Is
The
that
mulch?
Yeah. I mean, that looks like soil, but is that mulch?
No, that's GB soil conditioner.
Okay.
Which, if anybody knows GB soil conditioner, you buy it at the nursery. It's lovely and it looks beautiful. So then I put the irrigation lines back on. Okay, next. And then birds were eating my seed, so I covered it with a floating row cover.
Mm-hmm.
Next. I don't like floating row covers because it's petroleum based, I believe. So now I use burlap, and I just put burlap down. It's pretty loose, and the plants grow up and through the burlap. And last April, this was my back. This was that bed.
Wow.
I know. And look at my Swiss chard. I have so much Swiss chard growing right now because I let it go to seed.
Oh God.
But I mean, you can't see really closely, but there's like baby blue eyes and Princeton. I mean, there's just lupin. It's just
Lupin, yeah.
yeah, and grasses. It
Yeah.
just you when I walked into my garden with all of this, it was just buzzing with life. I mean, not just bees, but insects, and it was just made you feel so good.
Yeah. I'm gonna chime in. So if you're covering, I think the way Kathleen cover crops is she has 3 beds going at any time, and 1 bed is dedicated to cover cropping, and then that rotates. So she's growing a diversity of vegetables, not ever just a monocrop of vegetables, but diversity of vegetables in the other beds. And that way but you can see how thick this cover crop is. I mean, there's a chart in there, but you're not really growing veggies in there. Another way to do it, people call it intercropping or polycropping. And that's you're actually growing your cash crop, your vegetable, let's say it's broccoli, um, with cover crop interplanted with it. And then you can do a couple things. You could chop and drop it before it goes to flower or seed, um, or you can let it go to flower or seed. But so that's an intercropping system. And instead of taking part of your garden out of production, you're keeping everything in production, but it is more labor intensive because you can't come with the hedge shears that you came and just go like that. You have to by hand chop and drop each of your cover crops and to let your cash crop go. I have found over time, I mean, the only people will say, "Oh, well, your cover crop's competing." And that's not true. Hopefully that made sense from everything else we just said. That's not what's happening. What's happening is the cover crop is helping your cash crop and it's going to give you better production. Um, but what it does compete for sometimes is sun. So if a crop's going to get huge, let's say tomato, and you know it's going to get 8 feet tall, you can plant a cover crop that's going to get pretty tall. If it's something like lettuce and it's only going to get 6 inches tall and you want to do intercropping, well, then you're going to probably have to do like baby blue eyes, or you're going to have, if you're cover cropping with a native seed, you're going to have to do almost like a ground cover type crop because there's no competition underground. The roots are all helping each other. They're all bringing more microbes in, and that's all a good thing. But above ground, you can get some competition with sunlight, and so sun has to be hitting your cash crop for you to get a crop.
And in this bed in April, I took the picture before I did it, but I took my hedge trimmer and I just cut 3 spots,
Oh,
probably about, I don't know, what's that, 2 feet by 2 feet.
uh-huh,
And I put my tomato plants in there and
uh-huh,
I caged them,
uh-huh.
and it was great.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I
yeah,
didn't want to cut all that down because look at all those seeds I was going to get.
yeah, I know. And I'm kind of a lazy gardener, so I like my cover crop to go to seed and then it just reseeds itself. Like my there's some Mission farmers on here. If you walk into Mission Farm in spring, you would go, "Are you really growing any vegetables here?" Because it just looks like flowers, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful. But there are vegetables in there.
And like, so this cover crop has lupin in it. Lupin is
Yeah,
a legume. That's fine when you have that many families in your cover crop to have one legume, that it's like, I don't have any problem with that. And it's a native lupin. That's a native cover crop mix.
yeah,
So, don't like not use a cover crop mix because there's one legume in it.
yeah.
Okay.
Next.
Oh, this is just some examples where I throw seeds. I throw seeds everywhere. under my Meyer lemon, and look, they're coming up. Next. We have a waterfall that's really shady. There's a Japanese maple there. So I threw some Loner shade mix over there. It was wonderful. Forever now, because that's a place in my yard that nobody goes. So they just grow, set seed, die, grow, set seed, die. It's great.
Yeah.
And this is my Satsuma, which it was so lonely on the right side. Doesn't that look lonely? So I threw a bunch of seeds out there and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what different cover crop plants do. So for soil erosion, if that's an issue for you, you want something that's going to grow fast, be good rooting, and have persistent growth. Cereal rye and annual ryegrass. I would also say buckwheat. The annual buckwheat is good for there. Soil compaction, my favorite is daikon radishes, which they say oilseed radishes here. And sunflowers are fabulous for compaction. Nitrogen fixation, of course, the legumes. When I did research about different cover crops, almost every article I came across, and of course this is to farmers, but it was, what problem are you trying to solve? And when I looked at that stuff, I was like, well, I want all of it. Why can't I have all of it? And in fact, you can. If you're worried about erosion and compaction and nitrogen, just plant some from each of those and you're halfway there to your 8 families. Okay. So nitrogen scavenging, this is another reason why I love daikon radishes and cereal rye also. If there's too much nitrogen in your soil, these two will take it up into for the daikon radish, into its root, and the cereal rye takes it up into its body. And then when they die and decompose, they slowly release that nitrogen and they keep it out of the water table. And then your next crop, you definitely don't have to fertilize because these guys are slowly releasing nitrogen. Disease and nematode suppression, there are certain brassicas. They say radishes here. I know some mustards that, like my neighbor has nematodes and he buys this, I think it's called golden mustard. Anyway, it's supposed to suppress nematodes. Weed control, cereal rye is great at that. I actually find any dense cover crop will help with weed control because you're denying sunlight to the weed and it improves the structure of your soil. So if you do have to pull the weed, it just comes out like, it's just so easy. I had oxalis on my side yard the other day. I was telling Lisa about it and I was pulling it out. It's the only thing I pull. And the little bulblet or the little nutlet, whatever they call it, was just popping right out. Just so easy because my soil is so lovely. And pollinator habitat and food source, a diverse mix. And, if you can get a native mix from Nature Seed or Larner's, that is going to be your pollinator habitat and food source. Okay. So grasses and brassicas are better than legumes. That's kind of obvious. At reducing nitrogen leaching, they pull it up into their body and they release it slowly as they decompose. Okay. Brassicas and mustards, they're annuals. They prevent erosion, suppress weeds and soil-borne pests, alleviate compaction, and scavenge nutrients. Okay. Buckwheat, I love buckwheat. Most buckwheat is white, but I buy the rose buckwheat just because it's more beautiful. And, it establishes really quickly. It suppresses weed. It's nectar for pollinators, topsoil loosener. and rejuvenator for low fertility.
Yeah, it has a wimpy little root system, but it comes up so quickly. If you have a short amount of time and you know you're headed into winter soon, buckwheat's a nice one.
Yeah. Okay. Oats. Oats are great. Oats, the only thing with oats is be careful about when you terminate them. You want them to have a seed head. And after you terminate them, if you're planting lettuces and spinach where they were, wait a few weeks because they actually have allelopathic stuff, exudates, whatever, that that will not allow your lettuce will die.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but wait, if a couple of weeks, they won't. It's fine.
On oats, this is completely unrelated to cover cropping, but just make sure you always, when you're buying oats to eat, always buy organic oats because how they kill oats in the field is with glyphosate. Um, and then they harvest the seed after that, and then they squish this, that's what rolled oats is they squish the seed. Um, but you're eating glyphosate if you're eating oats that aren't organic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And rye. Rye is a really nice one. And it also scavenges excess nitrogen, definitely prevents erosion, lots of organic matter, and suppresses weed. Okay. This is a mix I love. This is from Nature Seeds. They're in Utah. And this is their San Francisco Bay Area, California. It's almost all native. There's a couple naturalized. It's just a really nice mix. It's less expensive than Larner's. Larner's is like the gold standard, Larner's seed and Bolinas. But this is a really nice mix. And to this mix, I would add a couple grasses. But if you want to talk about diversity, and I don't have all the families up there, but you definitely are hitting 8 families with this.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. And this is a nice chart from the USDA. It's a lot of legumes. In fact, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 rows are legumes, but it kind of gives you a sense of what's a cool season and what's a warm season. And just, with this chart, take it from there. Okay. Oh, this didn't turn out well. This is from SAR.org. You can go on the website, cover cropping for pollinators. And it's pretty good. Okay. Same thing with grasses. It kind of tells you, what to watch for, when to plant. Okay. Okay. And, well, you guys will get this, so you'll be able to see it better. But this is from the Xeric Society. And this table shows early, mid, late. So you always have something blooming for the insects that need a flower, and hummingbirds. I mean, all kinds of plants, all kinds of animals need flowers. So I just really like this. So throughout the year, you have something in flower. Okay. Oh, hate this. This slide, in my research, I found this, and it just scares the bejesus out of me. There's a guy, Saul, down in San Diego, who is trying to genetically modify plants so that they have a polymer which will hold more carbon. He's trying to help with climate change, but it's like, you guys, we have the answer to climate change. Plant more plants. They will pull the carbon down. They'll do it. And they're spending like, I don't know how many millions to try to mess stuff up. Okay. That's my rant. That's it. Have fun, throw out some seeds, and make your yard beautiful.
So questions.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, resources.
Yeah. And those are some good ones. And they all have websites, so you can just go and look and play.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you, Lyngso.
So are there any questions, Cam?
Nope.
Yes, there are a couple questions. Now is a great time for folks to type in their questions via chat. But let me ask you the first two questions that came in. First one being, should we cover crop under fruit trees?
Yes. That's what I did this morning, actually. I threw some of my, I had Larner's coastal mix, and I threw it under my Meyer lemon. I threw it under my pears. I threw it under my stone fruit. So yeah, definitely. It'll help your fruit a lot.
Here's the Larner's mix. Oh, well, my camera's not getting. Yeah, Larner's seed is great. They have a California wildflower mix.
Alrighty, so the second question is, did Kathleen leave the burlap after the cover crops start to emerge through?
Yes, I did. I put it down better than I did for that picture, and I put the irrigation lines on top of it, and the plants just grew up and through it, and it's 100% cotton, and it's not a tight weave at all. And it just kind of disintegrated, and where it didn't disintegrate, I just mulched on top of it.
Okay. Next question is, can you get issues with lack of airflow with cover cropping?
Oh,
No, I've never seen it.
I haven't seen it either. I mean, it'd be similar to like a prairie or, something where you have, a diversity of plants all together and there's no air exchange problem.
Or, I mean, I suppose if you cover cropped inside a greenhouse, you could have an issue, but in nature, you should not have an issue at all.
Yeah, I mean, nature doesn't want a void. They want to fill it with plants.
Yeah. And the lack of airflow, I don't know. My mom used to tell me that I had to prune my lemon tree so
Mhm.
it had good airflow. And that actually is not true.
Uh,
So that might be not how we think about things today.
yeah, I would almost think the opposite is true. Like the more plants you have, obviously, then the more protection you have from wind, rain, sun. You just don't want bare soil. What you never want to see in your garden is bare soil. It should either be covered with a living crop, a cover crop, or with mulch, but you don't want bare soil, except maybe, a tiny 1 by 1 foot by 1 foot or something for some native bees. But um, you just want to make sure your soil's covered all the time with something.
Okay, so that leads to a question of what type of mulch do you recommend for cover crops?
If your nursery has G&B, and I'm not, as a master gardener, I'm not supposed to say a specific brand. I really like their soil conditioner. It's very fine. I don't think it's supposed to be a mulch, but I use it as a mulch in almost all the raised beds I work at. Just because it looks nice, it's fine. The plants can grow up, or the seeds can grow up through it, no problem. But any fine mulch, like Lyngso's quarter inch fir,
Quarter minus fur.
quarter minus fir, I'm sure would be fine. Um, yeah, in my front yard, I have big chunky mulch so that my gardener doesn't rake it up. And I just cover cropped into that this morning. So
Yeah, I think it depends on the situation. So the question would need to be like it's going to be different in a raised bed than it's going to be in an ornamental garden, and it's going to be different in a native garden. But one thing we didn't talk about today, and we're talking about cover crops, but is leave the leaves. You know, you want, like I mentioned earlier, you just want the soil covered all the time, year round. And so when your deciduous plants or any plants are dropping their leaves, just leave those leaves in place. and they're going to feed the soil, which is then going to feed your plant, and then you're going to get your nutrient cycle going. Um, and so I just leave the leaves as a mulch. But if it's in my garden is mostly natives, and I did put some wood. I put some. I just got it free from an arborist, but just some wood chips down. And then they feed the soil. And there's a myth out there that, oh, if you put wood chips, it's robbing some nitrogen from the soil, but that's not actually what's happening. It's just the soil. The microbes are breaking that carbon down over time. So every few years, you might need to add just a tiny bit more mulch. But the main thing is just leave your leaves, keep your soil covered with either a living cover, green manure cover crop, or with mulch. And I'd say any wood chips are fine in a ornamental garden or a native garden, but in a raised bed, you probably should put something that's a little bit woody. I don't know how heavy the carbon is, Kathleen, in the G and B.
I think it's pretty heavy.
Yeah. So you're going to need to replace the carbon in your
Mhm.
raised beds because the microbes are digesting that carbon so quickly um, that they're gonna you think your soil is like shrinking or settling, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is actually the microbes are are eating all of that carbon up, and you think your soil is shrinking, but what's actually happening is your organic matter is going away, and you need to replace that carbon. So,
So if you added enough cover crop to your raised bed, would that replace the carbon?
it's funny you should bring that up because I talked about it yesterday with Terry. So, if you're doing in-ground gardening in a vegetable bed, you can actually grow soil, right? If you're cover cropping and you're chopping and dropping, um, you're adding organic matter and you're growing soil. But in a raised bed, the system is so different that because you only have 30 to 40, like let's call it 30% is actually sand, silt, and clay. And your organic matter is so huge
Yeah,
in a raised bed. Um, and then that's being processed by the microbes that they're gonna be running through that carbon. And that's why you can't really grow soil in a raised bed where you can grow soil if you're gardening in the ground.
yeah. I have. Did you see those little pieces of wood along my beds?
Right, right.
I had to put those because I was growing soil and it was going into the path.
Yeah.
Oh, like, oh, I got to contain this somehow. It's like the cheapest little wood slats you can get.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can grow soil if you're in ground,
Yeah,
but you can't get that aggregate formation in a raised bed the way you can get an aggregate formation in the ground. And so you're actually consuming all that organic matter in a raised bed instead of growing soil, you're consuming organic matter.
yeah, yeah. Okay, next.
Yeah, next question.
So this question is regarding snails. How would one prevent a multitude of snails which were attracted by the wildflower cover crops and then they moved over to eat the stems of sugar peas, which were planted near the cover crops?
Well, first, I'm not sure if I would blame the snails on that. Um, I, well, if you're really having an overabundance of snails, it might be that you're watering too much, because they're going to want a lot of moisture. So you might want to first thing is back off on your watering. Um,
Or you can be in San Francisco where it never gets above 65 and
yeah,
it's
that's
always moist.
yeah. And if it's always moist, then you're going to have snails.
Yeah, when I mean in Santa Cruz and in San Francisco, snails are just a huge problem.
Yeah, well, like they are in Oregon because it's so
Yeah,
moist up there. Um, I
still
don't.
go. It's easy.
Yeah,
Still go.
yeah. I mean, I would say, well, it depends how big your garden is. It depends how. I mean, you can hand pick. I have four raised beds for my home garden, And I just hand pick the snails off. They're always on the brassicas. I've never seen them on a cover crop before, but who knows? They're on my brassicas, they're on my broccoli. I just hand pick them. I have chickens here. I just give them to the chickens. And after you hand pick them every morning for a few weeks, you really don't have a problem anymore. But I'd be surprised. I don't know. I don't think cover crops are the culprit here. I think the snails are going to go after your brassicas. I don't think they're going to really go after your cover crop.
I have snails in my Meyer lemon tree, in the tree.
Oh, and they're eating the rind, they're eating the peels off of the,
Yeah, I mean it's I still use the lemons. I don't really care. And once in a while when I'm out there, I'll see them on the underside of the leaf.
yeah,
But it's really hard to get them all out. So I just live with them. But I mean,
yeah.
it's Santa Cruz. It's never hot enough here to kill them.
You get moist. Yeah. And then the question talked about sugar snap peas. I would just make sure your sugar snap peas aren't being eaten by birds because just make sure it's a snail. So make sure you're seeing a snail track. Make sure you're seeing the slime that's left behind. I just don't want you to blame the wrong animal. Because birds love sugar snap peas. So when we plant sugar snap peas, we cover them until they get to a certain height and then grow them up onto a trellis. But I can't think if I've had snails in with my sugar snap peas. Certainly brassicas for sure. But yeah, so it depends where you're at. If you're San Francisco, Santa Cruz coastside, you're probably going to have a bigger snail problem because it's not going to get hot. But I would look at watering and I'd just make sure it's snail damage and I'd hand pick if you can. If you can't hand pick, I'd use Sluggo.
Yeah,
Okay. Next question is, should you use compost when spreading cover crop seeds?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to spread cover crop seeds and then put a little bit of compost on top of it. Um, You just, with a cover crop seed, you never want to put enough material over it. Like, let's say the seed is an eighth of an inch, then you only want an eighth of an inch of compost on top of it. Um, and then, I mean, I would probably do the floating row cover. I would do something then on top of that so you're protecting your compost. But if you put mulch on top of that, the seed's going to be pretty buried and it might have a little bit of a problem germinating.
Yeah. I'm a super lazy gardener, so I just throw them out.
So and you don't cover them at all.
No, it takes me like literally 10 minutes to cover crop my entire yard.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're throwing it on top of mulch and the seed is just finding its way down to the soil. So then that saves you the problem of trying to cover the seed.
Yeah. And I rolled the burlap like this morning. I rolled burlap on top of the one in my bed, my
Yeah.
vegetable bed, but I ran out of burlap, so I didn't in the others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
that was the last question, unless
Wow.
um there are more incoming questions, but I don't see any in the chat. So now would be a good time to type them in. Questions. But other than that, any concluding remarks from either of you?
Yes. 8 families. That's my key. If you get 8 families, what did Christine Jones call it? A quorum?
Yeah, yeah, she's done a lot of research on quorum, right?
Yeah. So you need 8 families to get a quorum to supercharge your soil. And you will be amazed at what your soil can become.
Yeah, that's good. My only thing is sorry about the technical difficulties at the beginning. That's always a nuisance. And just thank you guys all for coming. And I hope this makes sense. And then Master Gardeners always they have a question line, a helpline that you can, if you have more questions, and they can also get questions to us if you say I would like to ask this question of Lisa or Kathleen, they can track us down and that we could get an answer to your question. But I'd want to thank Lyngsos and want to thank Master Gardeners for hosting us.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Kathleen. Great class as always. And of course, it'll be available on our website since it's recorded. So thanks, folks, for attending, and we'll see you next month.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty, bye-bye. Bye.